Why are tomahawk steaks so popular? Well, maybe it's because when you pick this up, you feel like a caveman. All jokes aside, tomahawk ribeyes are super fun to cook. Today, I'll be showing you my process from setting up the grill to cook indirect and then searing it directly over the hot coals using the reverse sear method. Then we'll be serving up this bad boy with some chimichurri, so stay tuned because you're gonna wanna learn how to make this. Now, the only difference between a tomahawk ribeye and a normal ribeye is the big bone that they left on. This actual meat portion is the same as your traditional ribeye. These typically come a bit thicker. Now, whenever cooking a thick cut steak like this, it's great to salt it first. What the salt will do is it'll help tenderize the meat and infuse it with tons of flavor. So we're gonna lay down a nice coating of salt on this. The longer you give it with the salt on here, the better. Not gonna forget about this bone side here. Just like that, our steak is all salted up. Let's go ahead and get our grill ready. So here I have my Weber set up for indirect cooking. I have the char baskets over here. I laid down one layer of coals, and then I have a full chimney here. Now you don't got to worry about dirty smoke when you pour these coals into there. You know, if you give it a minute to heat up, all should be fine. What this extra layer of coals is going to do is it's just going to give us a little bit more fuel because this is going to be a bit of a longer cook since we're doing this indirect. So we'll go ahead and light our tumbleweed and then toss our chimney right on top. We'll give those coals a couple minutes to heat up. Now, when you're looking to buy one of these tomahawk ribeyes, make sure you shop at the right place. Some of my local grocery stores, you'll find these things for around $75, $80, even $90. What I found is the cheapest place to find these is typically Walmart or Sam's Club. I got this thing for just under $30. Now, that might be a lot for a steak, but you know what? There's nothing like a good old-fashioned tomahawk ribeye on the charcoal. All right, we've given our salt some time to penetrate. Now, what I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna pat this dry with a paper towel, get off any of that excess salt. Now, what I'm seasoning this with today is some McCormick's Montreal steak seasoning. This is your traditional steak seasoning. It tastes great. I like to get the 25% less sodium version, especially since we layered this down with some salt first. You want to go generous. When we go to sear this over the hot coals, you're going to lose some of the seasoning anyways. So it's all right if you go a little heavy on the seasoning. There we go. Beautifully seasoned here. While those coals heat up, I'm going to get our thermometer probe in the steak. And of course, I'm using none other than the ThermoWorks RFX. I'll leave a link in the description and the pinned comment so that you can check them out for yourself. So add in your probe here. You want to make sure you put it into the center of the meat and keep it away from the bone. If you're touching the bone with your thermometer, you're going to get an inaccurate reading. So we'll put that all the way in there, up to the immersion line. Opening up the ThermoWorks app here, you can see my RFX meat probe. We're sitting at 37 degrees, and we'll monitor this regularly while it's cooking indirect. All right, guys, our top coals are just starting to get ashed over. The smoke is pretty much gone, so we're gonna dump this into our char baskets. And you already know, I love this flip up grate here. What I like about this is when I'm ready to sear, I can just flip this over, add in some more coals, and flip it back. So we have our bottom vent wide open right now. I'm gonna put my lid on with our top vent wide open. Let this grill just preheat for a minute before we throw on our steak. All right, we should be all heated up now. Our grill is nice and hot. What I'm gonna do before adding on the steak is I'm gonna add a applewood smoking chunk in there. And you wanna place your steak as far away from the direct heat as possible. So I'm putting it up in this corner over here. And what's great about using this method is all the flavor from the charcoal and this wood smoke is gonna get infused into this as it bakes, of course, before giving it a nice sear. So add your lid back with your vent over the meat, as always. And we'll come back, check on this in a couple of minutes, but we're looking for an internal of around 115 before we sear it off. All right, we're just a bit past our 115 target internal, but that's no worries. We're at 120. Let's take a look at this. Oh, this looks beautiful. Now here, checking the heat on our coals, this does seem hot enough to sear on, so I won't have to add any extra. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna take this bone and I'm gonna wrap it with some foil. This is gonna be our handle here, so we can actually pick this up. Now just pick this bad boy up and throw it right on top of the coals. Hear that sizzle? And I'm gonna use this cast iron press here just to make sure we get full contact. We'll get some flare up here, but what that flare up is that's actually that rendered fat burning off in that coal, and it'll actually give it some great flavor. Pull this bad boy up. Wow. Let's look at that sizzle. A little bit of char from the flames, but that's okay. Back on top there. Press it in. We're going up to an internal of 135. We're currently at 129, so this will need another minute. Now, although we have our our ThermoWorks RFX in there. I'm gonna also check it with this ThermoWorks instant read. There we go. That's exactly what we're looking for there, 135. Let's go ahead, pull this off. And again, if you like this thermometer, link in the pinned comment. Now, of course, one of the most important parts of cooking any thick cut of meat is the rest. So I have a wire rack here over my cutting board, and we'll let this sit for about 10 to 15 minutes before we cut into it. All right, our rest is now completed. We can pull away our wire rack and pull out our thermometer probe. Slicing this is actually really simple. I like to just pick this up, take a nice big knife, and ride it along the bone here. Have a little bit of meat left over here. I'm gonna save this for my dogs. Then when we slice into this, just get some nice thick slices on here. Let's take a look. This came out a little bit more well done than I typically like it, but that's no worries. This is still gonna taste great. Here we have our homemade chimichurri. Now the most important part here is we have to dig in. Let's get a little bit of our chimichurri on there. That tastes phenomenal. I get a little bit of that smoky flavor from the applewood. It's subtle, but it's good. And then a nice crust from that sear. This is delicious. Listen, if you've never made one of these, you have to give it a try. You will not regret it. Go to Sam's Club or Walmart, get it for 30 bucks. Don't go anywhere else and be overpaying $75, $80, $90. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please drop me a thumbs up and let me know your thoughts down below.